Okay, if the Leafs lose tonight, can I throw my jersey on the ice? No, absolutely not. Under no circumstances. What if Gustavss0n gets a shutout? If Gustavss0n gets a shutout, I'll throw my jersey on the ice. I'm cold. Woo! Are you just gonna get hammered? Get me a toaster. Magic Angel Robot from Winnipeg!
What the hell are you talking about?
This team is ruining my life! Leafs lose 1-0 in overtime to the Detroit Red Wings. Shooting this after the game in a rare instance of me shooting 2 LFR videos in one day. In last video, which I hope you check out, last video, I was pissed. Last video, I was ready to go. Last video, I was pissed off, yelling and screaming, losing my mind. Is that what you want again? Well, guess what? I'm not gonna do that. It's an 82 game season. I'll blow my vocal cords out and the neighbors will call the police. Yeah, hi. One of the guys from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is screaming again. Well, first of all, let's talk about what happened in the game, but I will explain why I'm calm and rational about this. First of all, for a 0-0 game, for most of it, it was a good game. Maybe the best looking Leaf, at least in spurts. Davy Clarkman! There's one shift in particular I remember, I think it was in the third period, where I was like, wow, he looks really good, even though he fell down twice. As, of course, is tradition. That whole Santorelli-Clarkson-Komarov line looks great. And part of me watches Santorelli play, and I wish he had more offensive weapons. I think if someone in the top 2 lines gets hurt, you could definitely put Santorelli up there, or if you wanted to switch things up and take Winnick off the second line, you could put Santorelli there. But Komarov has had his chances, and Clarkson has been making a lot of noise. I think when you take that mask off, because it's very obvious Clarkson hates that stupid thing, that line could cause some trouble. And part of the reason I bring them up, the Leafs didn't score a goal in this game. They had 2 breakaways. Santorelli probably had the Leafs' best shot scoring in the game, and JVR had a pretty damn good one too. Not that the Leafs were without their defensive faults. Bernier had to come up big a few times, woo, picking cherries, but they had their chances. Leafs getting in a bit of penalty trouble, draw a penalty right back. Point being, they were with Detroit all night long. And we might say, well, Jonas Gustavsson got a shutout, and believe me, I hate that too. Because of course he did. Ex-Leafs always score against the Leafs, and this is the goalie equivalent. No, it's not, said Marty Brodeur. Marty, you rascal. All I'm trying to say is up until the Zetterberg one-timer with 10 seconds to go, because of course, happy thoughts! Up until the Zetterberg one-timer, they were fine. That game could have gone either way. And we want to yell and scream. The Leafs are off to a hot start. But we need to be fair, because here's what happened last year. The Leafs got off to a hot start. Hot as a pistol. And they were winning games. One of the hottest teams in the league. I think they were 9-4, 10-4, something at one point. And they were playing some garbage hockey. But we didn't care because, hey, wins. And at the end of the day, that is what the NHL is about. The standings work in the same way that races in the Fast and the Furious work. You didn't almost have me. There is no almost when it comes to winning. The standings don't give a crap. There is no almost column. Well, there are shootout lots, so shut up. Point is, the Leafs were playing garbage hockey, but they were winning games. And a lot of people yelled and shouted, who cares? Until, of course, their Corsi and PDO chickens came home to roost, and the Leafs collapsed. Let's look at the Leafs season so far. 4-3 loss to Montreal. They were with Montreal all game. Anyone could have won that game, and a fluky bounce took a point, possibly 2 away from the Leafs with less than a minute to go. Pittsburgh! They were really bad. They lost. They sucked. The New York Rangers wiped the floor with them. The Colorado Avalanche, despite the fact that the Leafs only won that game by 1 goal and they needed overtime to do it, that was one of their best games in the past 2 years, maybe 3. Friday night against Detroit, they were bad. And then this game against Detroit, anybody could have won that game. The teams were almost perfectly even. The Wings outshot the Leafs 32-30, but at even strength, the shots were 24-24. Detroit had 2 more on the power play. And the result was a loss with 10 seconds to go in overtime. So in 6 games, what do you got? 2 wins you definitely deserved. 2 losses you absolutely deserve. And 2 games where you friggin' spin a wheel and you get whatever result comes up, and they only get 1 out of a possible 4 points. A bounce here, bounce there, maybe the Leafs get 0 out of those 4 points instead of 1. A bounce here, bounce there, maybe they make it to overtime against Montreal and then lose in overtime in the shootout. Maybe they win that game. Maybe they beat Detroit in this one. And I know it's only 6 games into the season, but what I'm trying to say is a bounce here, bounce there. The Leafs are one of the top teams in the East so far. We don't really expect this team to be great, right? Well, okay, their power play is pretty middle of the pack. Their penalty kill is pretty middle of the pack. It's actually been pretty good recently. Their shots for is pretty middle of the pack too. Their shots against, still one of the worst in the league, but it's actually improving. So the reason I brought up last season and the hot start is the Leafs right now are playing better hockey than they were at the beginning of last season. Forget the records. So believe me, when the Leafs take a stupid too many men on the ice penalty, I want to yell and scream. When someone completely blows their defensive assignment, I want to yell and scream. When someone lets in a terrible goal, I want to yell and scream. And believe me, and I'm sure you believe me, if the Leafs deserve it, I will yell and scream. They don't deserve it tonight. So, if the evidence changes, my videos will change, and the volume of them. Until then, the Leafs have looked alright so far. Brandon Kozin out of the lineup, and that really sucks. But David Booth resumed skating, and that's good news. People forget that the Leafs got David Booth. That whole thought about maybe playing more offensive guys with Santorelli? Maybe. And my one criticism I would like to make, it's time for Polak to sit. Up until recently, I've been saying, maybe give him a game to rest. Now I'm like, no, straight up sit the guy. He, out of all the defensemen on the Leafs, deserves to sit the most. Gardner should stay in. If Percy's not banged up, you put him right back in. Robitaille looked alright with Gardner. Polak out. But what do you think? That's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, click like. If you really liked it, click subscribe and watch my last video, which I did less than 24 hours ago. Less than like 12 hours ago. Thank you very much for watching, and I will